Welcome, everyone. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and I'm excited to be here with you for this free program called Living a Masterful Life, Accessing Dynamic Insights and Peak States of Inspiration to Embrace the Next Stage of Your Unfoldment. This is an online program with acclaimed spiritual teacher Michael Bernard Beckwith. This is a 90-minute program with a 30-minute live Q&A at the end, so be sure to make notes of questions that you have. I'll be coming back live to answer your questions at the end of this 60-minute program with Michael. This program is part of a free online video series with Panache Desai called Mastering Reality. Transcend your limitations, access your infinite power, and become fully you. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really powerful program in store. As we get started, I'm going to give Michael a proper introduction. Michael Bernard Beckwith is an author, meditation teacher, conference speaker, and seminar leader, and is the founder and spiritual director of Agape International Spiritual Center. He has appeared on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday, Super Soul Sessions, and Help Desk, as well as on Dr. Oz, CNN, Larry King Live, Tavis Smiley in his own PBS special, The Answer Is You, and thousands tune in to his weekly radio show on KPFK, Wake Up, the Sound of Transformation. And welcome to the program, Michael. Great to be with you.
Steve, I'm happy to be here, and it's always a joy to see you. It's always a joy to work with you on behalf of all of humanity.
Yes, indeed. Back at you. It is a total privilege and pleasure to be doing this program with you, Michael. And wow, we've got a lot of exciting things to cover here during this hour. So let me just jump right in. Now, before we go into this program with Michael, I want to share with you that near the end of this program, we're going to tell you about a brand new 8-week masterclass that we've been working on for over a year. It's called You Are Limitless. Discover how to step into a whole new level of empowerment and effectiveness in everything that you do. Michael Bernard Beckwith and Panache Desai are teaching this program together. This is the first time they've offered a masterclass together, so be sure to stay tuned for details. Now, let's jump right in with Michael to these exciting topics that we've planned for you here. And as we get started, Michael, let me throw this question at you. How can we recognize the difference between our true self and our outward personality so we can more fully identify with your true self as you move through your day?
Mm-hmm. I think that's an extremely important question, and there's different layers to it. And as you mentioned, I go in deeper with this particular understanding in the masterclass. Let's understand what the true self is, and let's understand what the outward personality is, and then I can answer that particular question. When we talk about our true self, we're talking about our limitless, eternal, timeless self that is not forged by human experience, is not forged by hereditary patterns, it's not forged by the imprints from society or the social milieu or whatever's going on. That comes directly from the source. Each of us are unique emanations of source. We're each emanations of divine intelligence, unconditional love, perfect peace. All of the very essence of life itself forged itself into a composite idea called each and every one of us. That's our real and essential self. Paths to spiritual growth and discovery open ourselves up to that, so we begin to operate more from the timeless, more from the spaciousness, more from the sense of connectedness, rather than from a sense of separation. Now, the personality self, the word personality or persona means mask. That the personality is what oftentimes covers up the true self. Now, where does personality come from? Personality is forged through time. In other words, an individual may have gone through particular experiences in life, and they develop a personality in order to survive with whatever experiences they may have had. Sometimes an individual may create a personality in order to be successful. They may create within themselves a gregarious personality, a humorous personality, or sometimes the personality carries the shell of a defense mechanism or a coping mechanism But all personality emerges from a reaction to experience or time, or an imprint that you may have received from your parents or your uncle or aunt or people that you were in close relationship with. Personality is temporary. The true self is eternal. Now, how can you tell the difference? The personality, if you watch yourself, you'll know that the personality is primarily reactive. It reacts and then it acts. The true self responds. It's responding to the field of love and beauty and joy and generosity and kindness. Now, you've seen this throughout history where, for instance, peacemakers, they have personalities as well, but you can see that they may have been oppressed, things of that particular nature, but then there is this power that comes out of them. It's emanating not through the construct of the personality, but from the construct of connectedness to the presence, a love, a kindness, a compassion, a patience that you can't fake, that you can't use willpower and make that happen. That comes because of the individual's depth of connection to their soul force, the presence. We think of Mohandas K. Gandhi as an example, that he had a certain personality growing up. He was an attorney. He was prone to anger at times. He had a fierceness about him, an assertiveness. And then as he began to go into deep states of meditation and things of that particular nature, there became something else that began to emerge through him. And that was more akin to his true self. And it carried a lot of focus and a lot of power. Each of us, you ask, first of all, how you can tell the difference. One is reactive, one is responsive. What are we responding to? We develop a level of responsibility. That means the ability to respond to our higher nature. That's what the true self does. The personality reacts, calculates, and reacts, calculates, then acts. If you watch yourself, you begin to let yourself be the primary focus of your observation throughout the course of a day, rather than observing someone else, judging someone else, thinking about what someone else is doing or saying. You just look at yourself and you'll be able to tell, I'm reacting to that from my personality, or I'm responding from my true nature. Now, of course, I'm a teacher of meditation, and meditation is really one of the primary ways of discerning, uncovering, activating, becoming at one with your real self. And then it becomes a matter of practice and a way of life. Now, there's nothing wrong with the personality. It's not evil, nothing like that. It's just temporary. It's transitory and forged by time. The true self is eternal. It's real. It's timeless. It's the real you. Steve, I hope I'm shedding some light on.
Oh, absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you. We definitely have set the table here for a great discussion. Thank you. That's a wonderful way to start in with just the nature of reality and whether we're coming from personality or our true self. So let me, I'm going to go in slightly different directions here with each of these questions. This next question is, how can you transcend hopelessness, loneliness, and despair through your creative and selfless actions in the world?
You know what? That question is interesting because you put part of the answer in the question. Now, when an individual is having the experience of loneliness, sadness, despair, deep sense of loss, now, on a spiritual level, we know that our essential self never experience loneliness or despair. That, again, is on the personality level. It's on the human consciousness level. However, you put a part of the answer in the question. When one begins to walk in the direction of service or creativity, begins to walk in the direction of generosity, just baby steps. There's an energy that's released that becomes activated in our awareness, and we begin to transmute the thoughts of loneliness, despair, sadness, etc., into a higher frequency. Creativity begins to flow, um, a level of joy begins to flow because it's within our matrix as a being, but we have to get it jump started. Now, in some spiritual traditions, this is an example. In some spiritual traditions, let's say an individual loses a loved one, a very close loved one, friend, family member, and of course the grieving is there, the sadness is there, the loneliness is there. In certain spiritual traditions, it is okay to grieve for 30 days, or excuse me, 40 days. And on the 41st day, you dedicate yourself to some kind of project, some kind of way of living that's in honor of the person that you lost. So that the energy starts to shift from, I miss the person, why did they die? I'm lonely, they left me alone, I'm in despair, to what can I now do in their memory to make myself a better individual or to make the world a better place. Now, the moment I begin to do that, the energy shifts and the grieving, sad, loneliness thoughts begin to be redeemed. It's called redemption. We all know redemption, remember years ago, people used to redeem their bottles for 5 cents or something, but there's a redemption of thought because energy is never created or destroyed. It's just transmuted. So you're redeeming the thoughts of despair and loneliness and transmuting them to a higher frequency by going into service, by dedicating your life to being better, or a project on behalf of that individual. So when we're in loneliness, despair, fear, we have to ask ourselves, how can I share? How can I give? Now here's the trick. The universal presence through the universe operates by law. And one of the laws is that the universe answers any question that you ask. So if I ask, how can I be of service? How can I live my life in dedication to someone that I just lost physically, or somewhere along that line, you'll start to get intuitive hits, guidance, opportunities will show up, and you'll start to move the energy in a different direction. You won't deny the fact that you may have experienced some loss. You won't deny the fact that someone has not died, that has died. It won't deny the fact that you may be going through some tumultuous situation, but the energy will start to change and you will be more empowered to be able to handle the challenges that are in front of you. Let me say one more thing about that. This presence, I call God the presence that's never in absence. It's everywhere, fully being itself. There used to be a myth, myths come into being in order to explain things that are unexplainable. Well, there used to be this myth that God was so lonely that God created the multidimensional universe, the solar system, the galaxy, all of nature, living biology, ultimately beings such as human beings and animals and things like that. Now, of course, we know that we don't believe that myth anymore. We are aware that the presence that's never in absence recreated everything out of bliss and ecstasy, so full of itself that it went into full expression. And so we're connected to that presence. So loneliness is a perception. You can be by yourself and not be lonely. Or you can be in a crowd of people and be lonely if you're cut off from yourself. For instance, I'm an individual, I like solitude. I like to be by myself. I love people. Don't get me wrong, I love people. I love fellowship. I love hanging around with growth-centric individuals, but I love to be by myself in nature and by my altar in my home when I'm meditating, walking. But I'm never lonely when I'm by myself. I can be alone for days, but I'm never lonely. Loneliness is a perception. It's a sense of being cut off from your essential nature. So, Steve, I hope I'm shedding some light on this.
Absolutely, yeah. I hope we need to beam this into every funeral parlor here, Michael. Other other places too, but every funeral parlor there was a
Well,
lot.
you know what? I used to love. It sounds going to sound weird, but I used to love to facilitate memorial services because I could actually see the alchemy that would take place. I would alchemicalize the thoughts that people were having about grieving and sadness and transmute them into a deep sense of celebration that they even knew the person and the gifts that person gave to them and how to leave this place, taking those gifts and actually living for those gifts. Back in the day, before I had a number of ministers on staff and things of that particular nature, you know, I would do most of the memorial services, and I would love the feeling of transmutation that would happen around the service that would ultimately become a celebration of eternal life. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I love it, and I love it, and it to just help people make that U-turn from grief and loss to celebration of, man, I'm gonna bring a lot to the world in this person's memory. I mean, what a cool thing.
absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, let me go and I'm gonna go again in slightly different direction. So this one, so how can you see each and every moment as an opportunity to grow yourself and give your gifts to the world, at least in some small way?
Mhm. Well, everything begins with an intention. That's a great question. And the intention must be that I am here today and every single day to grow, develop, and unfold to embrace the next great vision and version of myself. The challenge is that there are many individuals that are living from what I call an intention deficit disorder. They don't have an intention. So they just wake up and go into life and react to whatever circumstances or conditions or situations or whatever the world of phenomena brings them. So they're buffeted around by life, and then the personality reacts to it, calculates, figures out how to handle it until the next challenge arises or the next thing that they have to face with comes up. That's not an intentional life. If in fact you say to yourself, I am intending to embrace the next great version of myself, and you do that on a daily basis, then that becomes a part of your subjective tendency. And then you notice that you're living every moment as an opportunity to grow. You're not just developing strength to withstand the blows of life. You're developing an empowering strength to become your greater yet to be. Now, if you can imagine for a moment, what if everyone woke up like that? Instead of living in the consciousness of greed and materialism, consumerism, trying to get a bunch of stuff to fill up the imaginary holes in our soul. You know, we actually live to be a better person. We actually live to grow. We actually live to unfold with the awareness. Let me break down unfoldment for a moment. When you look at a seed of a rose bush and you plant it in fertile soil, proper nutrition, water, sunlight, the whole deal, and then that shoot, you know, grows roots and then shoots, and ultimately there's a rose bush. It produces roses. Now that rose tree or bush is unfolding, meaning the idea, the pattern of the whole bush and all the roses are already within the seed. It's already there. The proper condition allows for it to unfold. It's becoming visible. So we, as spiritual beings having a human incarnation, are unfolding something that's already within us that's magnificent. It's limitless. It's majestic. It's beautiful. And we are called to live, to keep embracing the next level of our own unfolding consciously. Again, many people live an unintentional life, and they just pick and choose accidentally what's happening in the world and react to it. And hopefully things are going to turn out okay. Hopefully we're going to survive. Hopefully I'll be happy. No, that's a life built on chance, not choice. Living an intentional life, you start to up-level your choice ability. And now every moment, everything has meaning. Every moment gives you feedback for your growth, development, and unfoldment. A setback may not be a denial. It just might be a delay. It may mean that you have to grow in certain areas of your life. Everything becomes feedback, not picking on you, but for you to look at yourself and say, I need to grow in this area. I need to expand in this area. I need to eliminate this way of thinking. I need to eliminate this habit. So in that way, every moment becomes a fresh moment, feedback for growth, development, and unfoldment.
Yeah, I love the metaphor of unfoldment, where you bring in, it's already there. So you just let's bring it into reality. It's already there.
Right.
Because it makes it a little easier than where somebody tries to consider how to do this, and where you realize it's already there. Just bring it into form. It's there.
Yeah.
It feels much easier. So beautiful.
Well, it's slightly easier because you're in alignment with how the laws work. When you're trying to make something happen vigorously, then you're telling yourself it's not here.
Yeah.
And so you're working against yourself.
Right. Exactly. So beautiful. Love it. Okay, so how can you fully trust your internal guidance system so you can follow it without hesitation?
Now, this is a beautiful question. And as you know, I go into a little bit more depth in that in the master class in terms of the trust factor and how to embrace that. In order to trust your internal guidance system, first of all, you have to be in alignment with it. And you have to begin to develop a level of interest and deep listening. So you're able to tell the difference between the ego, to tell the difference between personality reaction and your soul self, your real self. Now, a clue is, well, first I'll give you a clue, then I'll give you a practice. The clue is your first mind. Everyone knows it. Everyone hears people talking about, I should have followed my first mind when it told me to go right, but I recalculated and went left. And so that internal guidance system is speaking to us all the time. There's an eternal broadcast of wisdom and intelligence and love emanating through all creation from the presence, and it's emanating through us. We have just limited our perception, so it becomes hit and miss. We want to expand our perception so that it becomes more regular for us. So you begin with following your first mind as a practice. You continue with the practice of meditation, some kind of meditation where you are becoming more and more in tune with the depth of your being rather than constantly identifying with your surface mind. And then you begin to cultivate what I call the trust factor in the mastery class, the class on being limitless. You begin to develop a level of trust. This comes with practice. And with trust, you're able to see that sometimes things may not appear to be working out, but you followed your first mind, you're in the meditative flow, and you start to trust, and you realize what you thought was a setback, sometimes what you thought was a loss. As you go further down the track, you realize, oh my God, that was all, that setback was really a setup for my success. It eliminated this out of my life, took this person out of my life that was holding me down. Uh, you start to see things differently. The trust factor, what are you trusting? You're not just nilly-willy trusting anything. You're trusting that the presence, which is never an absence, through the universal laws are for you and not against you. And you're coming into an alignment with them through spiritual practice. So that, and with trust, and with release, and with the ability to let go, you start to go into the flow. I call it flow motion. You start to live in flow motion. And sometimes it'll transcend even your thinking. In a moment you don't even think, you suddenly know something. You don't even know why you know it. I think we've all had moments of accidental alignment where we suddenly knew something, but we didn't figure it out with our mind. We didn't study it. Suddenly we just knew, I need to go over here. And we went over there, and there was the person you were trying to meet. I remember there was a couple of people I needed to have meetings with. They didn't live in Los Angeles, and we were always seeking to figure out a time and a place to do this meeting. And anyway, I was on a flight somewhere, and the flight was delayed for a long period of time. And in the airport was one of the guys I needed to meet. So we were stuck in the airport. So we had an hour meeting, completed our business, and then the flight was delayed again. And this other woman flew in that I needed to meet with, and there she was, and we figured out everything we needed to do. Now, that delay was not a denial. It put everything right. It would have been, trying to go through my schedule, it would have been horrific to try to meet with these two people with what we had to cover. But the universe did it for me. And interestingly enough, I'll just tell you another quick story. I was flying somewhere before, we were locked down, and there was a woman that ran up to me crying. She saw me and she started crying and said she needed to see me. And we had a moment of prayer in the airport, and it was everything she needed. And then she told me the story that she had gone to the wrong terminal. She was supposed to be in another terminal, but absentmindedly, she walked to this terminal where I was, and she was hoping at some point to call Agape and to speak to me, and she bumped right into me. And it alleviated her fear and her worry, and provided the opportunity for her to think clearly. So certain things, when we trust, we start to operate from our internal guidance system, and then the universe shapes things for us in that trust factor that sometimes we couldn't even do for ourselves. You see?
Yeah, beautiful. And flow motion, you've definitely got ones for the refrigerator here, Michael.
just say it. Just say it to yourself. I'm living in flow motion.
Yeah.
Everything is going my way, and I'm in the flow of good.
Absolutely. And when we just release and let go, and we're guided by the divine, we're following our divine inspiration, these things just happen. Just let go of any kind of control we're trying to put around our lives in the world, and live in this flow of surrender, of service. Yes. So beautiful. So this next question goes a little further with this same thing where we talk about trust. So how can you use that same trust to partner with the universe and become a master in the art of living your fullest life?
Mm-hmm. I like this. I like the question around partnering with the universe. First of all, for me, there was a period of practice and study where I became aware that the universe is friendly. Now, I don't use the word universe is friendly as much. I use that the universe is progressive, even though it's alive, and it's the outpicturing of the mind of the infinite. It's alive, and we need to come to an understanding that it can't go against its nature. It doesn't have a human construct whereas human beings can go against their nature. They can put nicotine in their body to slowly kill themselves. They can do things that do themselves harm or do other people harm. They can go against their spiritual nature. Well, the universe can't do that. It's an integrity with itself. The presence of that's never an absence can't do that. It's an integrity with itself, so it can only operate from its own nature. So through meditation, we have that as an insight, not just a belief system. It starts off as a belief system, but through spiritual practice, you come to a knowing. A belief is a substitute for knowing. It's an operational placeholder. We believe something until we know it. And then once we know it, we don't need to believe it anymore because it's a part of us. So going back to your question, the trusting in the universe comes from having an insight that the universe is progressive, cannot go against itself. Therefore, it's always benefiting you when you do what? You use the word surrender. When you surrender to it, when you yield to it, when you say yes to it, when you allow it. These are all feminine qualities: yielding, surrender, allowing, yielding. These are all, our feminine nature yields to it based on the trust. And it is a partnership because we have to consciously participate in our own unfolding. I think I might go into this in a little bit in the master class that Panache and I are doing. But the old model of evolution, or the old ways that evolution came about, that evolutionists would tell us, is that, you know, climate shifts, land mass move, weather change, things of that particular nature, and then nature adapted to that. The birds, the four-leggeds, the humans adapted. That's one form of evolution where you're adapting to a circumstance. But humanity has, we're at the apex of an old form of evolution, the beginning of another. The beginning of the other is called conscious evolution, or embracing of your own unfoldment. That's partnership. What does that mean? Within the fabric of the eternal, the very essence of the eternal, through all of its creation, including the universe, multidimensional universe, the essence of that is love and beauty and abundance and opulence and intelligence and peace and joy. It's in the fabric of all creation. We don't have to create that. It's already there. I have to partner with the universe, with my intention. I have to partner with the universe, which elevates my thought, changes my perception. I have to partner with the universe, with my conversation. Thus the use of affirmation. I have to partner with the universe. So I'm partnering with a progressive universe that's working on my behalf, that my life starts to outpicture or start to manifest in the visible world the essence of life itself. We would call that prosperity, call it health, call it love, call it pure great friendships, call it success, call it the consciousness of all needs met. I'm partnering with a progressive universe, right use of its law. The universe can't contradict its own nature. I'm in tune with it through yielding. My thought, my word, and my actions are in alignment with it. What was invisible becomes visible according to my unique pattern. You use the key word trust, and you use the key word partnership. We are in partnership with the divine. Now, even the word partnership sometimes denotes a little bit of separation. You know, if you ever had a partner in business, you know, they have their percentage, you have your percentage. There's a little bit of slight separation there. But in this dynamic, it's not separation. We're in partnership because we have the same faculty that God has, and that is we can think independent of experience and make a new choice and allow the flow of the presence to operate through us. Now, I know that may have been a long explanation to your question, but it has so many layers to it that we want to partner, we want to trust, we want to let go. And even if you don't know how to do it, if you take a baby step and become willing, the progressive universe will meet you and open up opportunities for your growth and for your greater manifestation of who you are and what you represent.
Amen. And Michael, let me share this. Of course, you're operating at this very high level where you're helping so many people in their conscious journey, helping to elevate that their consciousness and to accelerate their journey. And that's a selfless, or you could call it self-full task.
Yeah.
And don't you find that the synchronicities and miracles and the things that are happening, that people probably wouldn't even believe, stories that you probably don't even share, that are part of your journey, that are the fruit of this work?
It's absolutely true. And I did have the opportunity to share some of the stories in the masterclass. As a matter of fact, every single module that I taught 8 of them, carries a story that people may have never even heard about me. I released some of that information. But yeah, I could share story after story after story of synchronicity, healing, revelation, safety, and protection. And I take none of that for granted. I live in a state of gratitude and thanksgiving that I'm under a level of grace where this is concerned. And grace is not something we earn. Grace is something that we become receptive to through doing what we're doing today, being a part of high-level conversation. Because I like to say we don't have a food for thought. We have thought for food. And so we enter in this kind of conversation, we get to a high activated thought that becomes our food. And then we're on a path of unfoldment. And then we begin to witness. You know what I want people to do? If people do this, man, they'll become more, they have the ability to see better. Just notice throughout the course of the day, little tiny miracles or things that went your way. You may not think it's a big deal, but if you start to notice it, wow, I just ran into so-and-so. I've been wanting to run into them. So-and-so just called me. I was just thinking about them. Oh, there's a new idea. Where did that idea come from? I think I'll work on it. Obviously, it comes from the presence. If people started noticing little tiny miracles, taking notice of it, maybe even jotting it down, their perceptual windows will become more and more cleansed, and they'll start to see behind the Wizard of Oz's cabinet something going on. There's something happening. There's a divine conspiracy that's happening. And
Right.
if you expand your perception, you get to participate in it more and more and more consciously. It's not accidental.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm part of it, that co-creation. Wow. Well, stunning, Michael. So this is the first part of our program. Beautiful, very profound. Wow. I mean, amazing. And so let me share that this evening, we're going to send out a link to a program page we're about to go to. We've been referencing, Michael and I, a masterclass, which we're going to talk about briefly. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to send out a link to this webinar. So you can watch it again and again and sponge up all of the wisdom that Michael shared. It's a lot. This was such a valuable experience, discussion back and forth. So Michael, thank you. Really stunning. So now we've been referring to this masterclass. I shared at the beginning that we spent about a year working with Michael Bernard Beckwith and Panache Desai on a brand new 8-week masterclass on an exciting topic. And I'm going to share the name of the program now. It's called You Are Limitless. Discover how to step into a whole new level of empowerment and effectiveness in everything you do. And here I'm going to just, we're going to have some fun and we're going to take a look at the program page together. So, all right, here's this program. We were laughing ahead of this program because we've spent a year putting it together. And now we get to unveil it. And so this is the fun part, where you get to unveil something that has
Ta-da!
been a real labor of love. So I'm going to share a little bit about this. I want to say something though. This program page we're going to send out, I invite you to keep that link so you can come back here. We're not going to actually read any of the page. So, and there's a ton here, and there are videos that get into deeper explanation. Lots and lots that we're just not going to have time to cover. So invite you to come back to this page so that you can spend some quality time with it and see if this is something that interests you. Now, Michael, I want to invite you. I shared, a year planning the wedding, and here it is. So you want to just share this program? I know Michael or Panache Desai is a dear friend of yours, but as well, I think part of the reason he's a dear friend, because I've worked with you for so many years, both of you, is you're so aligned. And even though you're aligned, you're coming at it really with some very different wisdom, but there's a real synergy, I think, in the wisdom that you both share. So yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yep, absolutely. You're right on target there, Steve. Obviously, I've known Panache Desai for many years. I think I may have been one of the first speakers when he was doing his program. I was one of the first speakers to speak there, and he had known about me for a long time. But we become more than colleagues. We become deep soul friends, and so when I received the invitation to actually do a master class with him, it was a great opportunity. I've never done a master class such as this with one other person, but I felt very comfortable doing with Panache. She has a level of insight and insight and deep wisdom that, of course, as you mentioned, is articulated according to Panache. It's Panache's download. And so this particular class carries the universal teachings as they are expressed through us according to our unique pattern. So even though there's a universal presence, universal laws, we maintain our own integrity with who we are in sharing our gifts. And I think it created a wonderful synergy, just a wonderful alignment with each other that will allow people to hear something from different points of view, sometimes even a different way of saying it. And when you learn that way, then the learning becomes more insightful, creates a greater sense of depth and a greater sense of being able to embody it, because you're hearing it one way, then you're hearing it another way. So, oh, I get it. When I hear it that way, I understand what Michael was saying, or I understand what Panache was saying when Michael said such and such. And so I think what you guys have created is just a powerful tool that people could come back to over and over and over again and hear something different every single time that they watch it, which will be a great boon to their unfoldment, a great boon to their spiritual practice, and ultimately begin to live in the feeling tone of I'm limitless. There's no blockage, there's no hindrance, there's no obstructions except in my own thought. I can live the life that I'm destined to live. So yeah, it's a joy working with Panache. She's a great friend and a great teacher.
Yes, and for us working with both of you, it is a wow. This is a real wow, and becoming limitless, because these aren't Michael and Panache aren't just messengers of this; they are embodiments of this, the most amazing embodiments of it on the whole planet, candidly, in our view, which is why we reached out to Michael and Panache. So you can see there's 16 video modules here. It's an 8-week program. You could do it in less time or more time, but we've designed it to fit in with your family life and your professional life over 8 weeks. A bunch of bonuses, which we'll get to. And then there are 4 live mentoring programs, 2 with Michael and 2 with Panache. So let's just scan the page here. Again, I'm not going to read anything. So I'm going to just invite you to come back and read this yourself, spend some quality time with it. This is an amazing, it's a real wow masterclass, a brand new one on how you are limitless. Okay, so we're gonna, here we are in the 16 modules. The first 8 modules are Michael's. And Michael, do you want to just take, even 10 or 15 seconds to share about each of your 8 modules?
Well, we start off with awakening, and I think that's very important. We have to understand what awakening is, because we're all here to consciously awake to what's already within us. And this provides the context to begin to transcend the sense of separation from the absolute good that's within us all. So I tell a story of one of my own awakenings, and then and that provides the context for the teaching, and provides the context for then a practice as well. Every single module, I give a teaching, I give a story, a teaching around the principle of what I just shared, and then a practice that you do during the week, and or a practice that we do, I lead you through it as well. So awakening, we begin with awakening. Yeah.
Okay, and then the next module 2 is called Your Real ID.
Yeah, your real identification. Who are you? Again, I tell a story of when I shrunk myself into what I thought other people wanted me to be, and I invite people to really look at, where they do that in their lives. We want to begin to identify with the limitless self. And oftentimes when you're in the human experience, you are trained to be human. You are trained to identify with a smaller version of who you can be. So there's a story, there's a great teaching around your real identification, and then a great practice as to how to have an insight around it and to live from that level.
All right, and that's week 1, those 2 modules. So it's 8 weeks, there's 16 modules and 4 mentoring programs. So there are 2 modules a week. So
yeah, they're synergetic. They work together. From awakening to your real idea, they really work together.
Beautiful. And then your destiny call, module 3.
Now, what I teach is that everyone has a great destiny. I'm not talking about fate. Fate is what happens when your unconscious, unresolved issues meet life experience. It's part of fate. It's part of the outpicturing of your fate. But destiny is different. There's something within you. I teach that week that there's a difference between you're meant to be and you should be. External authority figures will tell you what you should be, whether it's society, whether it's school, whether it's religion. But there's a meant to be within you that only you can live. We seek to uncover that, and we have practices. I'm using the universal we, have practices around how to suss out and uncover your real destiny.
All right, and then module 4, help. I love this. Hello, eternal loving presence.
Yeah, that begins with a very powerful story of me almost drowning in the ocean at Costa Rica, caught between a double riptide. And I talk about the value of programming your mind and the value of asking for help, the vulnerability of asking for help. And so I teach with story and practice the combination of how to live your life with the awareness that the mind is a set of programs. You program your mind for success, for health, for well-being, but then you're vulnerable enough to ask for help. And it's only when you ask for help that the supernatural can begin to take over in your life. We're talking ancestral realm, angelic realm, and the presence itself.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, and here, the trust factor, module 5.
Right, and this is what I meant when we were talking earlier, that I cover a lot of, more in depth than what I covered in answering your question about trust. And I'm telling stories that people may not ever heard me share before. And I tell a story of a time in my life where things had gone terribly wrong in my human experience. And I was getting an inner guidance that everything was going to be okay. And I had to lean into the trust of that rather than to try to manipulate or to do something my surface mind wanted to do. And when I trusted, everything turned out fantastic, better than I could have even imagined. So in that particular module, we get into the first mind practice, we get into the trust practice, we get into how to listen properly to the guidance that's coming as well.
All right. Module 6, the night shall shine as the day.
The night shall shine as the day. This is a very important module because it deals with what is called the dark night of the soul. And if you are forewarned, you're forearmed, as the statement goes. If you know what the dark night of the soul is, then even though it's very difficult to prepare for, because the dark night of the soul brings forth a sense of agony, a sense of despair, a sense of separation. It's a moment in which your old self and the identification with your transitory self begins to dissolve. And the new essential self hasn't quite yet emerged, so you feel bereft and cut off. And if people only knew what that is, they would have the tools to sit with it. And so in this, I give tools, I give questions to ask in order to, I don't want to use words navigate, but in order to move through the dark night with greater grace. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Boy, each of these could be its own 8-week program.
It could be.
Module 7, self-love, self-appreciation, and self-compassion.
Now, self-love and appreciation, I teach that that's one of the beginning stages of our conscious spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment, to actually embrace the self that we really are and to fall in love with it. When we begin to have a level of self-appreciation beyond the egocentricity, allowing the ego to steal it and thinking that we're better than someone else. I'm not talking about that. That's not self-appreciation. But when we really fall in love with who we are, it begins to allow for our journey to be a lot easier because we're not projecting our unhealed wounds. We're not projecting the lies that we've heard about ourselves onto the screen of life and then bumping into them as obstructions and hindrances. So it makes the path easier. So self-appreciation is a great way to start our path. Mm-hmm.
All right, and then your 8th module, live in the realm of possibility.
This is so important. It's good to start with awakening and to go through all these modules and come into the realm of possibility. I tell a real story that actually happened with us at Agape, and we had to step into possibility in order for the manifestation of good to take place. But I really emphasize that we are surrounded by a field of infinite possibility, that nothing is impossible to us, and that we have to be able to approach this in a way that is transformational. Story and practice are loaded and coded within this, and I really emphasize the fact that so many people in life set the bar too low for their existence because they only want to deal with what they think is possible. Rather than going into the realm of the unknown, I teach in this particular module that the unknown is your friend, because it is in the unknown, beyond your present way of thinking, that more good is trying to happen through you. And we want to live that kind of life. The universe is calling it.
Whoa.
So I need you
Love
to say
that.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Michael. Beautiful. Yeah. And isn't that the invitation to everybody here? Okay. Now these next 8 modules then are panache desais, and module 9, rejecting preconceptions, 10, accessing vulnerability, 11, acknowledging support, 12, revealing the truth, 13, realigning with harmony, 14, finding freedom in the unfamiliar, 15, the peak is only the beginning of the journey, 16, living in the flow. And so those are the 16 modules. Now, I'm going to just unpack the rest of this program here briefly. And as we mentioned, there are 4 mentoring sessions. These are live mentoring sessions. So where you're coming on live on camera, right now we're on something called Zoom webinar. And we use Zoom program when we do the the mentoring program, so that people that want to raise their hand and want to come on camera, and many actually just want to put their questions in chat, but if they want to come on camera, they can. And Michael can see you and you can see him. He's on twice, and Panache is on twice, and you can bring your comments and questions to them during the 8-week program. Okay, now other things that are part of this program, there's an exclusive Facebook community. Community is one of the really cool things that isn't talked about a lot, but most of us don't have, some of our families even aren't conscious, and our neighbors aren't, coworkers often aren't. Michael and I are blessed. Actually, we're surrounded with conscious people, but most people aren't. And it's a beautiful opportunity to be in close community with other people that are going through. Michael, did you have your hand raised? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that. One of the things I've been teaching for many years is a conscious community or spiritual community grants you immunity from the lower frequencies of life. That when you're in a conscious community of growth-centric people, then you, after a while, become immune to what most people experience in life, watching the news all the time and coming under the siege of fear and worry and doubt and nervousness and anxiety. Conscious community, spiritual community grants you immunity from that. So this is a very important part of this exclusive class.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for bringing that in. So, and the mentoring people comment on all day long after these programs, same thing with community. And the next feature too, the PDFs. So the programs are made into PDFs so that you can read all of the program. And then they're also made into MP3 audio so you can listen to the program. And this means you don't have to sit in front of your computer to participate, to be involved in these master classes. You can go to your favorite chair in the house or to the beach, or when you're in your car, or when you're flying somewhere. When you're not in front of your computer, you can read or listen to these programs. So these are other really valuable features. Now let me get to the bonuses, and I'll start with a really neat one. It's called an Inner Circle Virtual Gathering bonus. Okay, and what this is on those of you that register for this program by midnight tomorrow night. Okay, so by midnight on June 25th Pacific time, get this bonus. We call it an Inner Circle Virtual Gathering bonus. And what's going to happen here is on July 13th. So Monday, July 13th is when we actually do this program with Panache Desai. And it's like if you were going to go on a journey or a big long hike and you're at the trailhead and you get out of the car and you're just getting ready to go off on the journey. This is like that, because we're anticipating the 16 modules in this 8-week program. And it's an opportunity to just sit and share some of the inspirations and reflections and things to consider as we're getting ready to launch on this big new masterclass. So it's a really fun thing. I invite you to spend some time on this page today and then tomorrow before midnight Pacific time, because this is a cool bonus, and you'll want this bonus if you decide to go through the program. Now, other bonuses that we have, there's a special masterclass set of bonuses, and the first bonus here, and this is loaded with bonuses. This is another thing in our humanities team community, people share they love these. They're foundational, and actually they even help accelerate the journey through the 8 weeks. There's a real synergy between the bonuses and the video content. So masterclass bonus number 1 is there are these 5 guided meditations by Michael and Panache, and you can come back and read about the 5 guided meditations that are very cool. Bonus number 2 is this Mind Fast Soul Feast, a 21-day guided practice to soul awakening and inner fulfillment. It's an MP3 audio program with Michael. And then there's bonus 3 in this category is The Secret to Discovering Your Elusive Life Purpose. This is a downloadable ebook by Panache. Okay, now the next bonus category is called Abundant Life. This is the early registration bonus package. Bonus 1 is a 4-module video mini course with Panache Desai. It's called Create the Life You Crave. And there's quite a lot to read here on these bonuses. I'm not going to take the time to read any of it, but invite you to come back and read about these because they're very awesome. Then early registration bonus number 2 is Harmonizing Prosperity from True Abundance. And this is a 2-hour MP3 audio workshop with Michael. So lots of bonuses here in the program. There are some deadlines on these as it indicates early registration. and then the one that is by midnight tomorrow night. So take a look at the dates here on these just to make sure you're in step with when and how to receive bonuses. Okay, and then here's the summary of the whole program. The 8 video modules, Michael, 8 video modules, Panache, 16 MP3 audios of the video modules, the 4 live group mentoring programs, the exclusive membership in our private Facebook community, and then all of these different bonuses that are here. Okay, and we're a nonprofit. We're the largest global nonprofit in the transformational education space. The big 4 are all for-profits. And so we try and do things a little different. We've got this collaborative teaching, the live mentoring. We offer the programs in these bite-sized chunks. So we do a lot of things different, but we price these all aggressively. Again, we're a nonprofit. We don't have any board of directors. We don't have any shareholders. So our whole focus here is accelerating your conscious journey, creating planetary awakening, and ultimately creating flourishing at every level of life. So that's why we're here. So this is, the program's $297 for all of these things. Some people want to use these professionally, these master classes. So there is a completion certificate that's $50 more. And here's something new you probably don't know anything about, Humanity Stream. So we're just, this is just getting launched. So this is where you want this masterclass, and you want it with a bunch of our other master classes for 12 months. So you're streaming this master class and other master classes for 12 months. When you click on Stream Catalog, you'll see the other master classes that are available. It's a pretty cool option. So this is for people that are really, where you're looking at maybe a lot of the master classes on our site, and you're saying, wow, I'd like to, 3 or 4 of these look interesting. They're for me. I don't necessarily have a budget of $1,200, but this is $50 a month is what the $597 works out to. I can, I've got a budget for that, and now I can go through all of these master classes at once. So all of these 3 options invite you to first get familiar with this really awesome master class, and then if you decide that you're going to go through, then Michael and Panache and I are going to see you here shortly. This starts on Tuesday, July 13th. And also in the Humanity Stream, that's when it becomes available there as well. And we'd certainly look forward to being with you here on July 13th for all of you that do go through. Michael, anything you want to share before I'm going to go over live on camera to be with everybody and answer questions? Anything you want to share as we're wrapping up here?
Well, I love teaching. I'm going to love doing the live telecast where I get to answer questions, because there's something about that kind of interchange with people where I get to answer the question not only universally for everyone, but sometimes I get to tap into the individual themselves and answer it specifically. So I love that opportunity. And I would just say to everyone, if you've tuned in, if you've listened this far, there's probably something within you that wants to go farther. And what Panache and I have the ability to do is activate. So it's not just intellectual learning. It's not just memorizing spiritual principles or laws or things of that particular nature. Because of the openings that we have had, the word that comes out of us is very activated. So it's like it speeds up your process. So I would just jump on in, be with us. It's a beautiful format. We've never taught together like this before, so I know it's going to be very wonderful. And I just invite you just to sit with it, go with your first mind, go with your soul, and you will probably be pulled into this powerful community that's going to grant you a higher state of immunity from the lesser frequencies of life, and that you can more appropriately embrace your human incarnation to live full out, limitless. And so I really appreciate what Steve and his team has done together, a lot of work behind the scenes in order to create something that's basically excellent for you. So
thank you, Michael. Michael is being humble. This is an astounding masterclass. Our team works with, we have the privilege of working with leaders like Michael year round. We only put 4 new programs together a year. We spend a lot of time creating something like this. This is an astounding program. This is a wowzer. Okay, we've worked closely with Panache. Of course, his modules and Michael's modules are in. They're astounding. So come back and spend some time with the page and learn about it. And those of you that spend time with it, and there's a good number of you that are going to get that inner yes. And we're going to look forward to being with you here shortly when this program launches. So thank you for spending time with us here this evening. Michael, thank you. What a fabulous hour it's been.
Steve, it's been my joy, and let's do this.